10 most dangerous bridges in the world. PETRI Bridge. Located high in the stunning Crimean Mountains, the precarious-looking PETRI Bridge is for sensation seekers. Strung between craggy peaks at 4,000 feet up, the simple cable suspension bridge looks rather rickety. To take a step out onto its plank-lined walkway requires courage. Moreover, this is an unforgiving spot. Whilst the low clouds and fog make it feel mysterious, the 100 miles per hour winds make the place actually dangerous. On clear days, the views out over Yalta, Aleupca and the Black Sea are impressive, it's true, but this is a terrifying place to traverse and visitors tend to be few and far between. Make sure to look out for the famed stone cross that sticks out from the summit before once again braving the bridge, the howling winds and beginning your descent. You'll be relieved to make it back in one piece. SIDU River Bridge. Becoming the highest bridge on Earth when it opened in 2009, the SIDU River Bridge is enormous. Spanning a deep valley, the river below is more than 1,000 feet down. This is a structure that must be seen to be believed. It's more than 5,000 feet from end to end, a distance so great that the engineers tasked with building it had no option other than to use rockets to string the pilot lines from one side to the other. Close to Yesangwan in China's Hubei province, the bridge forms an important route between east and west, linking Shanghai and Chongqing, and being much used as a result. It isn't for everyone though, and such is its height and the less than convincing cables that are strung from the giant H-shaped towers, some still prefer to take an alternative route through these mountainous lands. Not got a head for heights? This might be one to avoid. TRIFT Bridge. Suspended over beautiful Lake TRIFT Sea, Switzerland's TRIFT Bridge is a terrifying sight. It's long, spanning 560 feet between craggy alpine cliffs, and it's narrow. It's also high, some 330 feet above the rocks and the waters below, making it a crossing for the courageous, and one to avoid for those feeling rather less brave. Located close to Gadman in the spectacular Swiss Alps, the bridge leads the way to the much-visited TRIFT Glacier, a popular destination for sightseers, although just reaching this point is quite an undertaking. Take a cable car and then hike uphill for around 1.5 hours and, at last, you'll reach the bridge. The question is, after all that effort, do you still feel brave enough to cross? Plenty don't, with the narrow planks strung high over the lake below a step too far. The views here are magnificent, but you might only want to stick with the hike. Mystery Bridge. Bridges don't get much more dangerous than this. If, that is, this can actually be called a bridge. There's precious little to it, no handrail and no walkway, at least not in the traditional sense, this ranking amongst the most basic crossings that we've ever come across. Still, though, local people use it on a regular basis to get across the river below. That alone, perhaps, is the mystery that gives the so-called bridge its name. Feeling brave? You'll need great courage to step out onto the sagging rope that spans the river below. The drop isn't great, it's true, but the waters can be deep here and the current deceptively strong, so taking a dip is not recommended. Take it slow, hold on for dear life and don't look down. Oh, and just hope that you don't meet anyone coming across in the opposite direction. Deception Pass Bridge. Spectacular in the extreme, Deception Pass is also rather scary. Linking Whidbey Island and Fidalgo Island, in beautiful Washington state, the historic bridge here is a much photographed and loved location, with exclusive views of the water and beaches below. When the bridge was dedicated in 1935, around 700 cars crossed per day. These days, that figure is closer to 20,000 a day. Some 180 feet above the deep and turbulent waters of the Puget Sound, this is, in fact, two bridges, spanning the fog-bound strait below. If the drive over this foggy strait isn't particularly frightening to you, try walking over the narrow pedestrian lane at the edge of the bridge. That's where you'll find especially hair-raising views of the rushing water directly below. Lake Pontchartrain Causeway, stretching almost 24 miles over Lake Pontchartrain in southern Louisiana. This is the longest continuous bridge over water in the world. It stretches far into the distance, much further than the human eye can see. To drive across, without the end in sight, can be an unnerving experience. Linking the suburbs of New Orleans in the south with Mandeville and the state's northern reaches, this direct route, which runs as straight as an arrow, across the lake's imposing center, can save considerable travel time. Yet it isn't for all, and there are still some who would rather go around than across, with the thought of traveling so far over the water often too much to bear. Drivers have been known to get the fear halfway across, requiring a police escort to complete their journey, whilst several babies have been born on the bridge, their mothers having failed to make it to the hospital on the other side in time. Not to be taken lightly. Eshima OHASHI Bridge. Eshima OHASHI is nicknamed the roller coaster bridge, and it isn't difficult to work out why. Spanning Lake Nakamura, the structure is steep, seriously steep, climbing high into the sky, and daunting approaching drivers. The illusion upon approach amplifies the incline somewhat, but there's no doubt that for those without a head for heights, tackling the crossing is an undertaking that is not to be treated lightly. Linking the Japanese cities of Matsue and Sakaiminato, the bridge was constructed like this in order to enable large ships to pass beneath on the lake. It's a spectacular sight, and approached from either end, it presents quite a challenge. This is a Big Dipper that calls for great bravery. Measuring just over a mile from one end to the other, you'll be sure to breathe a sigh of relief when you finally reach the other side. Montour Trail. Tourists jostle for space on the Huasan Plank Road, wooden beams bolted to a mountainside in China's Shanxi province, far from the ground below, with little to cling onto. It's a terrifying experience, yet one that continues to prove popular, with visitor numbers surging and no shortage of those keen to test their courage in the most extreme environment imaginable. Located 1 hour from Xi'an, just getting here is a serious undertaking, with rickety-looking ladders to be climbed, narrow ledges to negotiate and few passing points to facilitate the two-way traffic. The views from Montour are stunning, although those brave enough to step out onto the plank walk tend to find that it's best not to look down. There's a small shrine to explore at the end, but do be sure to take care. Huasan is considered one of the most dangerous hikes on Earth, with as many as 100 lives lost on the trail each year. Seven-Mile Bridge. The name says it all. 7 Mile Bridge is long, really long. Located in the Florida Keys, this feat of engineering links Knights Key with Little Duck Key and forms a vast network of bridges that span the beautiful waters here. Scenic it might be, but committing to a crossing can be a daunting experience. Once you're on, you just have to keep going. There are 2 bridges here. The original, which dates back to 1912, is now restricted to cyclists and pedestrians, although a large gap in the structure means that a full crossing is no longer possible. The newer bridge teems with vacation traffic and, although this is much safer, certain risks endure. The seabed is soft here and, for all its modern engineering, the bridge still sits on the foundations of a much older predecessor. Need to get across? Take a deep breath, and take your time. Royal Gorge Bridge. Colorado's Royal Gorge Bridge is immense, the highest suspension bridge in the United States and one that isn't for the faint of heart. Spanning a vast canyon close to Canyon City, the bridge is suspended 956 feet above the wild Arkansas River and, whilst the views are spectacular, those of a nervous disposition will not want to linger long. So deep is the gorge here that the Empire State Building could fit beneath the bridge. This is a popular location for tourists, with a thriving amusement park amongst the attractions here, but the rides on offer cannot match the sheer terror that stepping foot onto the wooden planked walkway tends to provoke. Royal Gorge Bridge measures 1,260 feet from one end to the other, and there's no question that you'll be relieved when you reach the other side. The Hussaini Hanging Bridge. Known as the world's most dangerous bridge, this walkway crosses Borat Lake in Pakistan and looks absolutely hideous. Not only that, but an older, tattier one hangs next to it, as if a sign of what might happen whilst you cross the Hussaini. Splendid. Thank you for your time. Click the link in the description to subscribe to the top 10.